Huh? Yes, I admit it. The crime is terrible. It's out of control. We have to do something about it. We have to fight against it, you know? But the thing that gives me hope is that it's a problem that has a solution. Economists have shown time and time again around the world that when there's a high rate of crime, it is often tied to a high rate of unemployment. And so if you work to fix that unemployment, you are then solving the problem of crime. They've shown this time and time again. It is not an easy problem to fix, but it is fixable. People are like, oh yeah, but you're in America, bro, you're lucky. You know, you don't even have crime. It's like, okay, first of all, there is crime. And second of all, there's something else that we don't have in South Africa, mass shootings. Yeah, that's the craziest thing ever. Just randomly, you're in a room, in a public space, anywhere. Someone comes in, giant gun, starts shooting. 10 people, 20 people, 50 people, 100 people, dead. Why? Nobody knows. Imagine that. Now you're dead. You don't know why. Just getting into heaven. I know they're both terrible, guys, but for me, I'll choose crime, No, because even with crime, at least there's a moment where I know there's hope, where I can be like, okay, but let me take my SIM card and delete my browser history. I'll choose South Africa any day of the week. These are things I think about. I have to think about them. Because now, I've lived in America for so long that they say that soon I'm going to be given a US passport. Right? You say woo because you don't know what it comes with. Tandaga, you're clapping already. Yay! Didn't even ask about terms and conditions. Because I read the terms and conditions of having an American passport. There are many things that I don't like. First and foremost, I will have to be subject to the American legal system. Yeah. I'm not enthusiastic about that. I'm not going to lie. Because I never planned to do anything wrong in America. But in the back of my head, I always thought if something was to be done by me, I felt good knowing they would have to deport me. They would be like, you're guilty, you're deported. And I'll be like, no. And then I'll come home and be like, Maracas, you must know, South Africa, you guys know, you know what happens sometimes, man, you never know. Why did Rihanna leave her iPhone like that? No, but I seriously don't want to be involved in the American justice system. Because they say it's justice, but it's terrifying. You don't know how they'll treat you. You don't know why they'll treat you. The scariest part for me is what happens in courts. Because they have a jury system in America. I'm terrified of that. Terrified of it. For those who don't know, I'm sure you've seen it on TV, but for those who don't know, the American system is very different to the South African one. In South Africa, you have the judge, you have the prosecution, and you have the defense. Right? That's who your case is working with, and the judge decides. The judge has studied, they're learned, they know what's going on. And you can talk to them on their side. I'm joking. But I like knowing that person had to go to school to figure out whether I broke the law. In America, it's a different system. They have a judge, they have a prosecution, and they have a defense, but they also have a jury. A jury. 12 people who are randomly gathered, randomly picked, who decide your fate. These people do not need to have studied the law. They don't need to understand the law. They don't even need to have watched Law and Order. Now they're deciding your fate. Clan, clan. I don't want that in my life. Yeah, I don't want that, and I don't want to be on a jury either. That's what comes with getting an American passport. You now have to be on a jury. I don't want to be on a jury. You know why? Because I'm South African. Yeah, and you're probably wondering, what does that mean? I'll tell you what it means. I read the rules of being on a jury, and I realized South Africans can never be on a jury. Yeah, because there's certain rules when you're on a jury. One of the most important rules right at the top of the list is if you are on a jury, if you're serving on a jury, you may not express your feelings or emotions about anything that is happening during the case. You may not talk about it. And you may not, during the case at any time on the trial, you may not on the bench, you may not say anything. Anything, yeah, when the jury's standing, like you can't express, you can't do anything. South Africans, immediately disqualified. You tell me which South African is gonna be able to sit there during a trial, hiding all their emotions. Which South African? That case is gonna be going on, bah, bah. Prosecution can start. Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this man burned down his home for the insurance money. Ha! Pa, pa, pa. Order, order. The jury shall be silent, completely silent. Oh, sorry. You insurance, you. Mr. Michaels, where were you the night of the fire?
I was walking. I wasn't at my house.
You weren't anywhere near the house?
No, I wasn't.
Then tell me, Mr. Michaels, why did your clothes smell like gasoline? I didn't talk. And can you imagine a South African jury deciding your case? You would never know which way the verdict would go. The judge would be there. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you got your verdict? We have, Your Honor. How do you find? We find the defendant guilty. Okay, and why is that? He didn't greet. Yeah, he just came in here. Well, nothing, no greeting, nothing. Yeah, magaham. I choose South Africa every day of the week. You know when I realized this, when it solidified in my mind, was when someone asked me a really personal question. Someone said to me, Trevor, if you have kids, where would you like them to be brought up? And this was honestly one of the toughest questions ever, because I was like, wow, actually I've never thought about that. If I had children, where would I want them to be brought up? And honestly, all I could think, no lying, no nothing, I was like, I would want them to be brought up in South Africa. I would want them to grow up in a country where you have multiple cultures, in a country where you have multiple languages, in a country where you understand that there are other ways to be, in a country where there's diversity in terms of thought, in terms of food. I would want them to understand what it's like to be in a country where, like, I would want them to live here. I would want them to know here. And then I went down a spiral. I was like, wow, what would I want? I would want my kids to be South African. Like I realized I want my kids to have the same ice cream truck music that I grew up with. Which I didn't even know was a thing. I didn't know this. Did you know that the ice cream truck music is different in every country? I didn't know this. I just assumed. Yeah, till I went, and there I was in America. They've got different ice cream trucks. Ice cream trucks driving around and there. Plum 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 plum. Yeah, and then you go to Europe. You'll be in some random country. They've got their own music, and the ice cream truck is like plung 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 plung. I don't want that for my kids. When my kids are getting ice cream, I don't want that jolly music playing. I want happy music. When my kids are about to get ice cream, I want there to be suspense. I want it to sound like the beginning of a horror movie. I want that thrill when the truck turns around the corner. Ding, 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 ding. Boom, 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 boom. That's what I want for my kids. Why do I want them to grow up in this country? There's so many reasons. You know why I want my kids to be South African? Because I want my kids to have grit. I want them to have texture. You take for granted what a child growing up in South Africa learns. You take for granted what they have to go through. It makes you something special, you know? It polishes you, a diamond from the rough. There's something of like, you know, I realized this one day. I was in the street in Brooklyn, right outside of New York City, right? And I'm sitting outside. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. And I'm in the street, and there's these kids playing baseball, right? And I'm watching these kids while they're playing. Well, I wasn't like watching them. I just saw them, you know? And no, like I wasn't like they were just there. And I was looking in that direction. In fact, I was looking first, and then they came and started playing while I was looking there. So like they're the ones with the problem. Anyway, so the kids were there, and they were playing baseball, right? And having like a really great time. The one kid pitches the ball, hits it, runs around. The other one comes, hits the ball, and then one kid pitched the ball, and the kid bats it and hits it, and it flew into a car window on the side, and the window cracked. And the kid who hits it was like, and then the kid who threw the ball, he was like, and then the other kids who were just standing around, they were like, and then soon it was 10 kids all crying at different times. I can't have children like that. One broken window, 10 children crying. Guys, that'll never happen in South Africa. What is the point of that? I remember what it was like growing up. We'd be outside in the streets playing. Everyone was there busy with the soccer ball. Busy having some fun playing diski. Someone would kick that ball too hard. Ball would fly over the wall, hit someone's window. And the thing I love is South African windows always act like they're not gonna break. And then the kid who kicked the ball, they'd look and they'd be like, and the rest of us would see what is about to happen. We'd know. We understand why our friend is terrified. They're in more trouble than they've ever been in their lives. But we wouldn't cry. What is our crying going to help our friend? No. We would be there. We would look over into our friend's eyes. We'd stare at them and we'd be like, I love banana. You broke the window. They're gonna hit you. They're gonna kill you. And then we'd take the ball and be like, see you tomorrow. Those are the kids I want. That's why I want South African children. You kidding me? And the most important reason I want to have children that are South African is because I want children who have culture and respect. Culture and respect. You take that for granted as a South African. The way we treat each other, even in the toughest times, you take it for granted because you're here. But guys, South Africans, we're truly a cut above the rest. Like, you think I'm wrong. You think I'm lying. Go, walk anywhere in public where there are other South Africans. Fall flat on your face. Pa! Tell me there's no South African there who will feel your pain. You'll fall. Bah! They'll all be there like, sorry. Ooh, sorry. Ach, shame, man. Ach, nee, man. Ach, shame. Ach, fooi toch, man. Ach, shame. You know that doesn't happen overseas. Yeah. There's a lot of countries around the world where no one cares about what happens to you if they don't know you. I saw this firsthand in New York. I was walking through the street, and there was this old lady who had just come back from grocery shopping, and she was carrying her bag. And this lady was old, guys. Like old. Like old. Like old. You're not like old. Like old. Like she was knocking. You know what I mean? Like old. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, like even where like the angel of death was there walking with her like, anytime I know I'll just be here in case.